One in every two men over 40 experiences some form of sexual performance concern at some point in life. For some, it shows up as difficulty maintaining firmness. For others, it feels like a drop in energy, slower recovery, or a sense that their body is not responding the way it used to. And most men carry these worries quietly. They do not bring them up with their doctor. They do not mention them to their partner. They try to figure it out on their own while scrolling through late night advice videos, hoping for clarity, but often finding only confusion. But the truth is this: your body is not failing you. It is speaking to you. Changes in circulation, shifts in nitric oxide levels, alterations in blood vessel elasticity, variations in testosterone production, even subtle inflammation in the prostate or pelvic floor tension. These are signals, not verdicts. And when we understand what those signals mean, we can support the body, strengthen it, and often restore the very functions you thought were slipping away for good. Today, I want to help you step out of the noise and back into the science, because there is a lot of misinformation circulating online about home remedies for circulation and performance, especially around baking soda. Some claim it boosts nitric oxide. Some use it for alkalinity. Others mix it with random ingredients without understanding how it interacts with the digestive system, the kidneys, or the vascular network. So in this session, we are going to break this down the same way I would with a patient sitting across from me in the clinic. We are going to look at what the research actually shows about sodium bicarbonate, how it affects blood flow, what it can and cannot do for performance, and most importantly, why combining it with a specific natural powder has become an evidence-supported strategy for men over 50 and 60 who want healthier endothelial function, better circulation, and more consistent performance. Think of it like this: your vascular system is a network of flexible highways. Blood flow is the traffic. Nitric oxide is the traffic signal that opens the lanes, and testosterone is the fuel that helps the system respond efficiently. When any one of those elements is disrupted, flexibility of the vessel wall, nitric oxide release, or hormonal signaling, the entire system slows down. What we are discussing today is a simple, accessible way to support all three of these pathways safely and effectively. So if you have ever felt uncertain, defeated, or overwhelmed by mixed advice online, this session is meant to bring you back into clarity. You deserve information that is grounded, not sensationalized. You deserve tools that are evidence-based, not speculative. And you deserve to understand how to care for your body in a way that feels calm, empowering, and within your control. Let us begin by clearing up one of the most persistent misunderstandings circulating online. Many men have heard that baking soda can boost performance, neutralize acidity, or increase energy. But here is what the research shows. Baking soda or sodium bicarbonate is not a circulation enhancer. It does not relax blood vessels. It does not raise nitric oxide levels. It does not directly influence erectile function. When taken by itself, its effects are limited almost entirely to buffering acids in the stomach and bloodstream. Inside your body, sodium bicarbonate acts like a chemical sponge. It neutralizes hydrogen ions, which is why athletes sometimes use it to reduce lactic acid during intense exercise. But the doses used in those studies are high and often cause stomach cramping, diarrhea, and bloating. In fact, research published in the International Journal of Sport Nutrition found that nearly half of participants experienced significant gastrointestinal discomfort when using sodium bicarbonate alone. And for men over 50, any increase in sodium load can place extra stress on the kidneys or raise blood pressure if used repeatedly. So why do people still talk about it as if it is a miracle solution for performance? Mostly because the real science has been misinterpreted. Baking soda does have one useful property. It temporarily increases the pH of the stomach and intestines. But here is the key point. By doing this, it changes how certain nutrients are absorbed. When used alone, this does not support circulation. But when paired with the correct nutrient, it enhances the body's ability to convert that nutrient into nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is the central molecule responsible for firm, sustained blood flow. Let us break this down the same way I would explain it to a patient. Nitric oxide acts like a gentle signal that tells the smooth muscles in your blood vessels to relax. When they relax, the vessel widens. When the vessel widens, blood flow improves. That is the exact pathway medications like sildenafil support. But your body naturally produces nitric oxide from two main sources. One pathway uses the amino acid arginine. The other uses dietary nitrates, and the nitrate pathway becomes more important with age because the arginine pathway weakens. Now, here is where baking soda becomes relevant. Studies from the National Institutes of Health show that nitrate conversion relies heavily on the environment of the stomach and the oral microbiome. When acidity shifts, the body converts nitrates into nitrites more efficiently. But the process works only when nitrates are present. Without that second ingredient, baking soda does nothing for vascular health. Think of it like trying to start a fire with no fuel. You can create the spark, but without wood, nothing catches. Baking soda is the spark. The nutrient we will discuss soon is the wood. Without the combination, the system stays inactive. This is something I see constantly in practice. Men come in frustrated because they have tried something they saw online, used it incorrectly, and now feel even more discouraged. And I remind them of this. Your body responds to chemistry. When you understand the chemistry, you can support your physiology safely and effectively. When we talk about performance, stamina, or the ability to achieve firmness reliably, the real foundation is vascular health. At its core, male sexual response is a blood flow event. It depends on how flexible the blood vessels are, how efficiently the inner lining of those vessels responds to signals, and how well the body produces nitric oxide. And this is where many men run into challenges as they enter their 40s, 50s, and beyond. Inside every blood vessel is a thin, delicate layer called the endothelium. Think of it as a living sensor that reacts to pressure, nutrients, oxygen, and even stress hormones. When the endothelium is healthy, it behaves like a responsive valve. It opens easily when the body signals for increased blood flow. But when it becomes inflamed, stiff, or coated with oxidative stress, that valve becomes sluggish. It does not open fully. It does not stay open long enough. And this is one of the earliest and most common reasons firmness declines with age. Research from Harvard and the Mayo Clinic consistently shows that endothelial dysfunction is one of the strongest predictors of erectile difficulty. In fact, several urology studies describe erectile challenges as an early warning sign of vascular aging. Not because something is wrong with masculinity, but because the blood vessels supplying that region are extremely sensitive. They show changes long before larger arteries do. Let us break this down the same way I would explain it to a patient sitting in my office. Imagine your blood vessels as flexible garden hoses. When they are new, they bend easily, expand quickly, and deliver strong pressure. Over time, with normal aging, repeated exposure to stress, shifts in hormones, inactivity, poor sleep, or elevated blood sugar, those hoses stiffen. They do not expand the way they used to. And nitric oxide, the molecule that tells them to relax and widen, becomes less available. Nitric oxide is truly the master regulator here. It is produced inside your endothelial cells and acts within seconds. The challenge is that men over 35 naturally produce less of it each decade. Studies from the National Institutes of Health show a clear pattern. As men age, enzymes responsible for nitric oxide production decline, the lining of the blood vessels becomes less responsive, and oxidative stress increases. This is why men often describe the experience as needing more stimulation to achieve the same result, or having difficulty maintaining firmness once they get there. This brings us back to why baking soda alone is not effective. It does not support nitric oxide. It does not nourish the endothelium. It does not improve vessel elasticity. But the right nutrient, when paired with baking soda, activates the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway that becomes essential as you age. You can think of this pathway as a backup generator that takes over when the primary system weakens. Here is something I remind men all the time. Erectile changes are not a failure of desire. They are not a reflection of masculinity. They are simply physiology responding to age, environment, and lifestyle. And the good news is this: endothelial function is highly responsive to support. It can improve, it can strengthen, it can recover. Before we move forward, if this resonates, consider leaving a comment. Many men feel alone in these experiences, but the truth is this: it is common and it is treatable. Now that we have a foundation, let us talk about the nutrient that transforms baking soda from an ineffective remedy into a genuinely supportive combination for vascular health. The powder is beetroot powder, more specifically, concentrated dietary nitrates derived from beetroot. Here is what the research shows. Beetroot is one of the richest natural sources of inorganic nitrates. When you consume those nitrates, they enter your bloodstream and interact with the bacteria in your mouth. Those bacteria convert nitrates into nitrites. When nitrites reach the stomach, they encounter an acidic environment that transforms them into nitric oxide. That nitric oxide then travels through the bloodstream and supports blood vessel relaxation, oxygenation, and overall vascular performance. This is where baking soda becomes relevant. On its own, it does not create nitric oxide. But when combined with beetroot powder, it shifts the stomach environment in a way that improves the conversion rate of nitrites into usable nitric oxide. Not by raising nitric oxide levels artificially, but by enhancing a process the body already relies on, especially as men age and the traditional arginine pathway becomes less efficient. A study published in the journal Nitric Oxide demonstrated that dietary nitrate intake significantly increases plasma nitric oxide levels, improves oxygen delivery, and enhances endothelial function. Another study from the University of Exeter observed that participants who consumed beetroot experienced better blood flow to working muscles and improved exercise efficiency. Although these studies focused on physical performance, the underlying mechanism is the same one responsible for firmness, stamina, and vascular strength. Let us make this more relatable. Think of beetroot nitrates as the raw material needed to build nitric oxide. Think of the oral bacteria as the factory workers that prepare the material, and think of the combination of stomach acidity and baking soda as the environment that allows the final product to form correctly. Without the raw material, the process halts. Without the factory workers, the material is useless. Without the right environment, the final product is never formed at the level you need. This is something I see frequently in men over 50. They are trying supplements focused solely on testosterone or single ingredients meant to boost circulation, but they are ignoring the nitric oxide pathway entirely. And for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, the nitrate pathway becomes one of the most reliable ways to support vascular health because it bypasses some of the age-related limitations of the arginine system. When beetroot powder is taken with a small amount of baking soda, two things happen. First, nitrate conversion improves. Second, stomach discomfort that sometimes occurs with beetroot alone is reduced. This synergy is why many clinical nutritionists recommend pairing them, not for quick fixes, but for steady, supportive vascular enhancement. This combination also influences how much oxygen reaches your tissues. Better oxygen delivery means more energy, better stamina, and a stronger vascular response when the body signals for increased blood flow. Here is a practical tip I often give patients. Avoid using antibacterial mouthwash around the time you take beetroot nitrates. Research from the National Institutes of Health shows that antibacterial mouthwash can reduce nitric oxide production by eliminating the very bacteria needed for nitrate conversion. With that foundation, we will move next into how this combination supports testosterone signaling, morning performance, and hormonal rhythm. Now let us look at another essential layer of male vitality: hormonal rhythm. Circulation and nitric oxide are only part of the story. Testosterone signaling, stress hormone balance, and the natural rise in hormones that supports morning performance all interact with vascular health. And this is where the combination of beetroot powder and baking soda offers benefits far beyond improving blood flow. Testosterone is not simply a hormone of desire. It influences energy, confidence, sleep quality, mood, and even how responsive your blood vessels are to nitric oxide. When testosterone is stable, the endothelial lining of the vessels responds quickly. When testosterone dips, the signal becomes weaker. Studies published by the Endocrine Society show that low testosterone is associated with reduced nitric oxide synthase activity, meaning the body has a harder time producing nitric oxide internally. This is where dietary nitrates help. By increasing nitric oxide availability through the nitrate pathway, the vessels become more responsive to hormonal cues. You can think of this like updating the software of your vascular system. Even if testosterone fluctuates slightly, the improved nitric oxide signaling keeps circulation efficient. Beetroot nitrates also influence oxygen delivery in a way that supports hormonal balance. Research from the University of Exeter and the Karolinska Institute shows that improved oxygenation reduces the stress burden on the adrenal glands. When physical stress decreases, cortisol levels stabilize, and stable cortisol allows testosterone rhythm to recover more naturally, particularly during sleep when testosterone production peaks. Let us break this down the same way I would with a patient. Your body has two primary daily rhythms. One is hormonal, the other is vascular. At night, your testosterone levels rise naturally. In the early morning hours, blood flow increases. When both rhythms are aligned, morning performance feels strong and consistent. When they fall out of sync, which often happens with age, stress, reduced oxygenation, or endothelial stiffness, men begin to notice weaker responses in the morning. Here is where the combination we are discussing becomes meaningful. By increasing nitric oxide availability and improving oxygen delivery, beetroot powder supports your vascular rhythm. By reducing the stress burden on your system and supporting more efficient oxygen use, it indirectly helps restore the natural rise in hormones that occurs during sleep. And baking soda, by modifying the digestive environment, enhances the conversion of dietary nitrates into the nitric oxide that drives these benefits. There is also emerging research suggesting that improved nitric oxide availability may enhance the sensitivity of androgen receptors. These receptors are responsible for receiving testosterone signals. When they function efficiently, you do not necessarily need dramatically higher testosterone levels. You simply need better signal reception. This is one of the reasons some men report improved morning performance and daytime vitality after supporting their nitric oxide pathway. Here is a simple tip many men do not realize. Sleep quality is one of the most important factors for hormonal rhythm. Studies from the National Institutes of Health show that even 1 week of reduced deep sleep can significantly lower morning testosterone levels. Taking beetroot powder earlier in the evening, not immediately before bed, may help improve nighttime oxygenation and contribute to a more restorative sleep cycle. If this session is bringing clarity and giving you helpful insights, give it a thumbs up so more men can access grounded information. To fully understand circulation, firmness, and overall male vitality, we have to look beyond hormones and blood vessels. The prostate and the pelvic floor are central players in this system. When they are healthy, they allow blood flow to enter and stay exactly where it needs to be. When they are inflamed, tense, or under pressure, they disrupt the entire vascular process. And many men never realize how much these two structures influence performance until problems begin to appear. Let us start with the pelvic floor. This group of muscles sits at the base of your pelvis, almost like a supportive hammock. When these muscles are balanced and responsive, they help maintain firmness by trapping blood inside the erectile chambers. But when they are either too tight or too weak, blood flow becomes unstable. This can lead to difficulty maintaining firmness, reduced sensitivity, or a feeling of premature loss of pressure. In my clinical experience, many men develop pelvic floor tension without knowing it. Long hours of sitting, stress-related clenching, chronic constipation, or even subtle prostate irritation can cause the pelvic muscles to tighten. Research published in the journal Urology has shown that pelvic floor dysfunction is significantly more common in men with erectile challenges than in the general population. And the reason is simple. Tight muscles compress blood vessels. Compressed vessels cannot expand. When they cannot expand, nitric oxide cannot do its job effectively. Now let us look at the prostate. Think of it like a small vascular sponge. It sits directly around the urethra and is surrounded by important blood vessels and nerves. When the prostate is calm and healthy, circulation to the region flows freely. But when it becomes inflamed, which is extremely common in men over 50, the surrounding tissues swell. That swelling puts pressure on both the urethra and the blood vessels required for sexual response. Studies from the National Institutes of Health and major urology associations show that chronic low-grade prostate inflammation is one of the most overlooked contributors to vascular performance issues. Not because the prostate controls erections, but because inflammation directly affects blood supply, nerve signaling, and pelvic floor response. Here is where the combination of beetroot powder and baking soda provides an unexpected benefit. Improved nitric oxide availability enhances blood flow to the pelvic region, which helps reduce inflammatory stress. Increased oxygen delivery may also support tissue recovery and reduce pelvic tension. Although this is not a treatment for prostate conditions, the improved vascular environment supports comfort and function. Let us break this down visually. Imagine your prostate and pelvic floor like the foundation of a house. If the foundation is tight, swollen, or under pressure, the entire structure above becomes unstable. The vascular system needs a relaxed, well-supported base to function properly. When nitric oxide increases and oxygen delivery improves, the foundation becomes more flexible, less inflamed, and more responsive. This creates a healthier environment for firmness, sensitivity, and emotional confidence. Here is a simple, real-life tip I give many men. Spend a few minutes each evening doing slow, deep, diaphragmatic breathing. Research from the Cleveland Clinic shows that this type of breathing reduces pelvic floor tension by lowering pressure inside the abdominal cavity. It also improves oxygen uptake, which works synergistically with dietary nitrates. With this foundation established, we can now move into a practical routine. In the next section, we will bring together everything you have learned and outline a safe, evidence-supported nightly habit that supports vascular function, hormonal rhythm, prostate comfort, and overall vitality. Now that we have explored the science behind nitric oxide, endothelial health, prostate comfort, pelvic floor balance, and hormonal rhythm, let us bring everything together into a practical routine. This is the same type of structured plan I would offer a patient who wants to support vascular strength, improve morning performance, and create a healthier nightly rhythm without relying on quick fixes or unsafe shortcuts. First, let us talk about the combination itself. Beetroot powder provides the nitrates. Baking soda modifies the environment that helps convert those nitrates into nitric oxide. The key is balance and timing. Too much baking soda can irritate the stomach or increase sodium levels. Too much beetroot powder can cause digestive discomfort in some men. Here is what clinical nutrition research and practical experience suggest. A small amount of beetroot powder mixed with a very small pinch of baking soda taken in the early evening supports the nitrate pathway gently and effectively. This timing matters for two reasons. Number one, it gives your body time to convert nitrates into nitric oxide well before sleep. Number two, it supports nighttime oxygenation, which aligns with the natural rise of testosterone during the later sleep stages. Let us break down the routine step by step, the same way I would in an in-person consultation. Begin with a glass of water at least 2 hours after your last large meal. Digestion affects nitrate conversion, and spacing it out helps your body absorb nutrients more efficiently. Add your beetroot powder. Then add only a small pinch of baking soda. You do not need more. In fact, increasing the amount does not improve nitric oxide production and may cause discomfort. Stir gently and drink slowly, not quickly. The second step involves your mouth. Because nitrate conversion begins with the oral microbiome, avoid antibacterial mouthwash within 2 hours of taking this combination. Research from the National Institutes of Health shows that using antibacterial mouthwash can reduce nitric oxide production for up to 12 hours by eliminating the bacteria responsible for nitrate conversion. Instead, rinse with water or a non-antibacterial rinse if needed. The third step involves breathing. After drinking the mixture, spend 5 minutes doing slow, deep breaths through the nose. This is not for relaxation alone. Nitric oxide is produced in the nasal passages. Nasal breathing naturally increases nitric oxide availability by delivering this locally produced nitric oxide to the lungs. This enhances oxygen uptake and complements the dietary nitrates. The fourth step is mobility. A 5-minute walk or gentle stretch routine helps move blood through the vessels and enhances endothelial response. You do not need exercise. Even light movement signals your vascular system that improved circulation is needed, allowing nitric oxide to act more effectively. The fifth step focuses on sleep. Aim to be in bed within 2 hours of this routine. Studies from the Mayo Clinic and the Sleep Research Society show that nitric oxide availability improves oxygenation during sleep, supports restorative stages, and may enhance the natural hormone rise that occurs overnight. Better sleep supports testosterone rhythm. Better testosterone rhythm improves vascular response. This routine is not a fast fix. It is a steady support system. Over time, men often notice improved morning energy, more consistent firmness, greater stamina, and a calmer pelvic region. The key is consistency and respect for the chemistry of your body. Here is one more practical reminder. If you take medications for blood pressure, kidneys, or the stomach, speak with your clinician before starting any regimen involving sodium bicarbonate. Not because the combination is unsafe, but because it is important to coordinate your choices with your medical team.